Hello, everybody. November the 7th, 2025, coming to you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma, episode number 74 of Into the Fire. Everybody, here's an announcement. If you're not on my YouTube page, you need to go there right now. I want you to go to my YouTube page, get off of Rumble and get off of Spreaker, go to my YouTube page, because the boss man up in New York said we could stream it through my YouTube page, and I want to get the hits. So it helps with the algorithm, and that's what I want you to do. And I think most of you, I've corrected most of them that are in here right now. Hello to Darren and Kathleen. Kathleen, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Karen Roscoe is in the house. Amanda McMillan. There's going to be some names here. Sally, I've seen you in here before. You've been a regular. Matt Noble. I appreciate everybody. Matt Noble from Sapulpa. Good. There's people that are here there's somebody here from Atlanta. I know that there's probably going to be somebody that's going to drop by from the land down under in Australia. Who knows? But anyway, it is going to be a very interesting podcast, Darren. And I appreciate everybody for being here. Honestly, I wanted to wish a happy birthday a little early. His birthday is going to be tomorrow, but it's going to be to Detective Andy Gregory from Gastonia, North Carolina. I met him when I was in North Carolina speaking, and he's good people, as were all of the other people from Gastonia Police Department. And I wanted to wish him a happy 50th birthday, which will be tomorrow. And I learned that from his wife, and I think she's got him a little something coming his way, probably from this show. So that's cool. Welcome everybody. I'm really excited about tonight. You have no idea. I am incredibly excited about tonight because this is a story that really is personal. It's a personal story for them. This is going to be the two brothers and sister. I didn't advertise Larry. I didn't know Larry was going to be here in the house, but he is. But we've got Larry and Mike, and then we've got Anna, and they're all the sister and two brothers to Latricia Fipps. And this is a case that really has. It's one of my career cases, honestly, and it's a case that I really hold near and dear to my heart. And I'm thankful that we were able to get. And I thought that this would. Hey, Travis, it's good to have you here. AK 7447 rules. Appreciate everybody that's being in here. I'm seeing a large audience. But what I was saying is that this is really an interesting story, and it's one that I've thought for a long time would be a good one to bring to everybody and to actually kind of memorialize it somewhat. And not only that, but I think that on the bright side, I think that there's police officers that are listening throughout this country that may have thought about a case that they have that would be considered a no-body case. And in those particular cases, people get really scared of them. And our friends from East Palo Alto, California, they just had a no-body case, and they were guests here on the show, and they kept me updated on it, and they got a successful conviction as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm gonna tell to those guys, check out Tad DiBiase's book, No-Body Homicide. It's a great book. He was a guest on the show, and like I said, I think it's going to be a really good night, honestly. And let's see. Oh, I wanted to remind people, too, before we get rolling here. I wanted to remind people, November the 21st. November the 21st. If you live in the area of Fort Smith, Arkansas, and that's Fort Smith, Arkansas, if you live in any of that area or you live close enough to drive, I would say. I know that Steph and Phyllis are actually flying in from other parts of the country to attend this. But I will be speaking at the U.S. Marshal Museum on November the 21st, starting at 6 p.m. If you're planning on going to that event, you need to go to the U.S. Marshal Museum website. I don't have it in front of me, but if you go to that website and you look for events and you check on that, then you could actually get tickets. They're very inexpensive, and trust me, I think they're $10, and they go to a good cause, which is the museum. And they are not completely sold out, but I'm letting you know that we sold out 350 seats January the 31st, and I'm anticipating that we're going to get real close this time. So trust me, this is an encore performance. It was I'm not just saying this because it's me, but the reviews were through the roof, and people really enjoyed it. And I do the real deal. I mean, I really show some of the real cases, and I talk about real life experiences and death investigations don't bring your kids. So, because there's really stuff that I can't have kids coming to this. So, but if you're an adult and you live in that area, I highly encourage you to show up. I get asked all the time, when are you going to do a show in Michigan or New York or whatever? Well, I just don't have the people behind me to get me to those places. I would do it in a heartbeat. Trust me. I teach all over the place. So I will be in Tennessee next week. I'll be speaking in Gatlinburg, Tennessee at the Tennessee Crisis Negotiator Association. If you're a crisis negotiator and you haven't signed up for that and you're in that area, man, try to go to that. It's going to be good. And I looked at the other speakers, and I think I know all of them. Actually, I've spoken different places in the country with each one of them. Each one of them will blow your mind. And there's only one that I haven't seen speak, but I know who he is. And he's from Ohio, and I'm sure I may have seen him speak. I don't remember, but I know all of them. And so it'll be good. The whole conference is fantastic, and it'll be epic. So plus I'll get to see Danny, our friend Danny from the show. I think I'm going to stay the night at his house just south of Nashville. So nevertheless, here we go. Let's just bring these people on. Let's bring them on. Anna, Mike, and Larry, welcome. By the way, it's great to have you here. By the way, not to put them on the spot, but this is their first podcast, all three of them. And technically speaking, they were a little nervous, but there's nothing to be nervous about. I promise you, this is great. So tell us a little bit. Let's get right to this. Let's start off with how did this whole story start? Who wants to take that?
Good start.
Well,
Well, the night it happened, she was working, and she was working on remodeling his house, and then her ex-boyfriend Joe was going to pick her up, go pick up the kids, and bring her back to our mother's house, and that never transpired. And then our mother had someone there waiting for her to get there, and they were waiting and waiting and waiting, and they were outside waiting for her. And then, of course, he always claimed that he dropped her off out front, but somebody was outside actually waiting for her to get there. And then as the hours went by, I'm sure my mother contacted my sister Anna. She contacted me and my brother Larry. And then,
the following day, the next day, the babysitter had called and said that Trish hadn't picked up the kids.
Yeah.
So that's when we knew something was wrong. Is when the babysitter called and said Trisha didn't pick up the kids yesterday.
Yeah, which had to have dropped your heart a little bit right there. So just to get this straight real quick, at that moment, you didn't rush to call the police just yet, but you knew that she had actually called the house and said that Joe was coming by to pick her up, and Joe was an ex-boyfriend for several years, really.
Yes.
And so put that picture up, Amanda, that house where he had picked her up at, if you can find it. Yeah, there's the house that she was actually remodeling, and that's the location that he had stopped by and picked her up. They went from there. They went to a Quick Trip, and they went from the Quick Trip, and that's when she called from there to say that, hey, I'm with Joe, and we're going to go pick up the kids, and then yet she never returned, and that was the thing. So the next day when you get the phone call from the babysitter, what I'm sure you're just like, what, and so immediately I would think you would have tried to call her. What happened next?
Well, we had called Joe, and I don't even remember trying to call my sister. I don't even know if she had a phone. I just know we called Joe, and he told us that he had dropped her off at Mama's house, and he said, and we said, no, you didn't. People were here waiting for her. And then I think it was later that night is when we finally called the police, and they come out. It was late at night. I know when the police came and took the report.
Yeah. And I think at some point in time, didn't you guys go out to Wagner where Joe lived?
Yes, we did. We did drive out there. He wasn't there. The door was actually open a little bit. No, it was open a little bit.
I kicked it in.
Oh, well, and I know we went in and we looked for her there. She wasn't there. We just kind of rummaged through stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and I think it looked like, I think I remember somebody telling me that that basically it looked like it had been rifled through a little bit, like maybe somebody had left in a hurry. Is that
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that correct? Yeah. And then so the police comes to your house, they take a police report, and I'm sure you guys are freaking out. And I'll remind, she did actually have a phone back then, but we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually later this month. It's 23 years when this, almost a quarter of a century that this happened. So I'm not surprised that you couldn't remember that, but nevertheless, you don't find him, and then you make this police report, and then what happens next?
Days.
Days will turn into more days.
Yeah, I don't. God, it's.
I just remember days going by and there's nothing, and you lose hope after something, and you start searching yourself. I mean, my mother, she lived pretty close to the river, and I remember with my walking with my brother-in-law before he was my brother-in-law, and we walked the river, thinking, because we felt like something had happened, and because I've talked to my brother-in-law many times about this, and he's like, something happened, and he did it, and then me and him, we walked the river, just hoping and not hoping at the same time. And of course, we didn't find anything, but that's all you can do is to keep looking and look and look. And
I remember the detectives telling us that his phone had pinged out in Manford.
Yeah.
We walked the shorelines of the lakes in the area that said the phone had pinged off. His daughter had lived just down the road from it. We went there, and we searched a lot of ground.
yeah,
Yeah.
Place that phone pinged to was out there in Manfred. Her phone.
Yeah. Well, that's right. You're right, Larry. It was
her phone.
That hit out there in a very close proximity. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to say some things in here in this podcast that I know that you guys sat through the trial, but you're going to hear some little details that you probably didn't, I don't know that we've ever talked about. So it might be kind of interesting for you as well. Now, when that happened, the detectives, they go and talk to Joe eventually. I'm sure pretty close order to that. I mean, use common sense. That's who they're going to go talk to. Show up that house, the second house, Amanda. The second house is that's actually where she lived at the time, and that's located off of Charles Page and in the west part of town. And then show the river pic, that other picture that's right after that. So just to give people an idea as they're looking at this, to the right of the screen where it says 212 South Phoenix, that's actually where she was working on this house that was getting renovated. And then that other location to the left, that's actually where she lived at the time, and where he claimed that he had taken her over there and dropped her off. Nobody on the block had actually seen her get dropped off. And so and they maintained that they did not. And so therefore, you're absolutely right, Larry, when you say that her phone did ping within about, and to tell you the truth, it was within a 3-mile radius and of where the cell was within a 3-mile radius, and that's where his ex-wife had lived. And so this is very close to Thanksgiving. So from that point, what happens next? If you can kind of just lead us through. I'm sure you guys are just going nuts at this point. Days are going by.
Well, I remember the detective on the case had come to my mama's house a few days, said they had talked to Joe, that he'd come into the department to speak with them. He said he told them they dropped him off, and he brought a woman with him, and she verified his alibi, and it was they asked her name. She gave a false name, and it wasn't really false. She didn't say her whole name. She just said her middle name. And I looked at the detective. I said, I showed him a picture of who I thought was with him. He goes, yeah, that's the girl that was with him. I said, well, she's lying to you. That is not her name. I said, she's lying to you. They're lying to you, and really nothing was ever done about it. And I went to the detective homicide department all the time, stomping and screaming and crying and telling them to do something.
Yeah.
And I was told there was nothing we could do. We found, what was it with her jewelry? Somebody seen
ring.
Joe with
Her
her
dad's
ring on
ring.
her finger.
Her
Her dad's ring on her finger. I went and told the homicide detective at the time, I said, he has her ring on his finger. Somebody seen him. Well, we can't go ask. We can ask him, but all he has to do is say she let him have it. Well, she didn't. She had it when she left. you
Yeah.
know, and it was not good. They didn't seem motivated to help do anything.
Let me ask you this, because I know we've talked about this over the years, but at some point in time, since Joe was kind of part of your guys' lives, I mean, they'd had a relationship for 6 to 7 years.
Yes.
So I'm sure you guys were blowing his phone up, or at least I could see Mike and Larry going up to him and going, "Hey, bud," or even you, Anna, "where is my sister?" And what was his response to you in reference to those questions?
He ran every time he goes seen us.
Yeah, I only ran into him one time after her disappearance, and I always said I was going to say something to him, but I was terrified because I didn't want nothing to happen to me, and that's why I didn't let him know that I had seen him. And I had talked to him on the phone, and he would tell me, he goes, I would never do anything to her. I dropped her off. I loved her so much I would not have hurt her. He had me convinced that maybe he did, because we knew Joe. I would have never in anything ever think he would hurt her.
Yeah.
Because he did, she didn't work. He took care of her, but.
Yeah. And so let's just out of curiosity. No, go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead.
Now, we talked about kids, that she's going to go pick up these kids. Who are the kids, and who did the kids belong? Who were the kids?
Well, the kids.
You don't have to use their name, but
Okay.
but how's their relationship into this whole?
Well, my sister adopted a little boy, a baby at birth, and it was her baby. Joe was no part of that adoption, and he had a sister that was 3, and she got taken away from the mother and the father, and they knew my sister had her biological brother, so DHS contacted my sister and asked her if she wanted to keep the kids together, the siblings, and she did, and she was our foster parent of his sister when she went missing.
And there is a connection to the mom, right? Or no, there's a connection to now Joe has moved on. He has another relationship going on.
And it is the mom of these 2 babies, their birth mother of these 2 babies. Joe was with that mother.
Okay. So just to make this, just so people can follow along here, there's these 2 kids. Latricia's in the process of adopting. And Joe is the ex-boyfriend, and he is now with the mother of these 2 children, just to kind of keep people in line here, because this is important, because this is kind of, in part, it's what we believe that a large part of this motive is in this whole case. And you don't have to have a motive. That a motive is not necessary for putting a case of murder on somebody, but it is actually kind of nice to know that there is a story that makes some sense. And this would be a reason. And so that's just kind of what we had known. You guys even, I think at some point in time, I remember hearing something. Didn't you guys even enlist a psychic?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
My mom did. She did, and it was a well-known psychic, and I can't even remember her name. And we went to Little Rock, Arkansas, and that's where it was. They told my mother that, she was, she wasn't alive, and that when we found her, she wouldn't be buried very deep, stuff like that. But nothing ever came out of that.
Yeah, but she did say that she wasn't alive and that she wouldn't be very, very deep.
Right.
And so that had to have been earth shattering to hear. And you know, I'll just tell ladies and gentlemen that are listening in here right now, we have never found her. And so as we go through into this story, I'm interested in finding her. And I really am. I'm interested in finding her. I know that the family's interested in her being found. I've got an idea of the area, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But all right, so this thing just kind of goes nowhere, and that's when, at this point in the story, and we're going to go from 2002, and I already knew that you guys had been up there regularly, okay? But I didn't know you at the time. I didn't know them. I just kind of, as I got this, I didn't have the case originally. I came to the unit in 2009. I would venture to say that this case not only went from that detective to probably another detective and maybe even another detective. And that's when there was an old guy that worked in our unit that basically had the case. His name was Mike Nance. And the only reason why he was involved in this is because there was a trailer theft ring that happened to be going on in Tulsa. And that's when some people that were involved in this trailer theft ring started saying they didn't want to get in trouble. And so they started saying, hey, I think we have some information. Somebody had some information in reference to this Latricia Fipps case. And so when that happened, did you guys not, you might not have even known that. Okay. So that's why you're going to learn a few things here. And so in reference to that, that's when Mike Nance was assigned to the case and told, hey, well, I was a new detective, and being a new detective that I was like a little puppy dog with my tail wagging going, hey, can I help? I want to go with you. I want to run with you on this case. And he's like, yeah, sure. Come along. So he allowed me to come along with him and sit in on some of the interviews. And then so we went from there, and actually that led us out to Wagner, Oklahoma. And Amanda, throw that picture up of that mobile home. And this is going to be the location where Joe lived at the time, and this is out in Wagner County. And trust me, this place, it was like a breeding ground for ticks. It was true wilderness. And so I went out there, and at this point in time, Mike is getting close to retirement. And as he's getting close to retirement, he just let me kind of take the reins here on this part of the case. And what I ended up doing is I enlisted I had somebody come out, like the forensic anthropologist, and then I also and I didn't know what I was doing. Let's be real. I was new in this world of homicide, but I thought, we probably should call an anthropologist and have him come out and just walk the grounds. We also utilized ground penetrating radar, and then we started a search for her out there. And Amanda, show that first video.
There are new clues to a 2002 cold case this evening. A tip led police and archaeologists to excavate a site where Latricia Fipps could have been buried 8 years ago when she was reported missing. She hasn't been seen since. Crime reporter Lori Fulbright has the exclusives for us. Lori?
Well, Scott, I have covered Tricia's case since it happened in 2002, and I've interviewed her mother a number of times. As police are digging for answers, her family has come to the terms with the idea that Tricia is most likely dead. But still, they want her to be buried properly and in peace. If she is in this clandestine grave in Wagner County, at least they can bring her home.
Grad students from the University of Oklahoma's archaeology department have the painstakingly slow job of removing thin layers of soil from what might be a shallow grave. A tip led officers here. Then ground penetrating radar showed some type of anomaly under a concrete slab, so they removed it and are now digging. The archaeologists are looking for changes in the soil texture and color.
Natural soil tends to occur in layers, and when you dig a hole in the ground, you jumble up those layers, and then when you fill the hole back in, all that jumbled dirt is put back in the hole. So instead of having the nice layers that you had before, you have this jumbled mixture.
Tricia Fipps has been missing since November of 2002 when she was working and told her family her ex-boyfriend was going to bring her home. He says he dropped her off, but her family says she never showed, and they knew something terrible had happened when she didn't pick up her adopted children from daycare. Police say they want to give families the answers they so desperately crave.
It's extremely important to us. We don't forget about any of these cases that are unsolved. We continue to work on them. However, there are times when it goes somewhat cold, and but there's no statute of limitations on murder.
This is a slow and delicate process, so it could take a couple of days to know if this is Tricia's final resting place. If it is, then forensic anthropologists will try to determine how she died and even look for clues as to who killed her.
Tulsa police want to thank the Wagner County Sheriff's Office, Patricia Adams for the use of her cadaver dogs, the Cherokee Nation for its radar equipment, the International Cold Case Association, and the OU scientists, of course, all who have donated their time to this case. Lori Fulbright, the News on 6.
All right. So this is what I'm curious about. Now, at this point in time, this is when you don't remember me probably from back then, but this is when I actually start meeting your family for the first time. And you all were not happy with the police at all. I do remember that. And the one thing that stuck out to me I don't know if you remember this or not, but this is the one phrase that sticks to me that always bothered me. And you said that you all felt like you were treated like white trash and that we didn't care. I don't know if you even remember that, but it might have been your mom that said it. I don't remember.
Probably.
But I
That's
know
probably my mama.
You sound like my mom.
It probably was. And I'll tell you something. I just remember that. And I can remember sitting in a living room in a house you guys were living in. And I remember your mom must have lived in West Tulsa. And
Yes,
she was not happy with the police. None of you were. And so, but what was that like for you that here we are and now it's like a full court press. I mean, you saw a lot of detectives running around, a lot of people that are talking to everybody now, from Joe's ex-wife, trying to talk to Joe. What was that like?
Well, it was always, because you guys different detectives would just show up out of the blue. The ones before you, they would just show up at my mom's house and say, hey, we're working this. I remember the last one before you, or maybe even before that, he was a younger guy. And we just thought, oh, they're not doing anything. And then this detective shows up and you're always like, yes, they're going to work on this. And then you don't hear from them for 2 or 3 more years, and then
Yes, it's rough.
It's hard. It's hard. And
you're not kidding either.
I'm not.
It was years before all of a sudden it would stop. And so the one thing that the family would do, and then so Mike Nance retired, and I went and grabbed that book from his desk and I stuck it on my shelf. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I wanted the case. And so from that point, I kind of went through it and I thought maybe we're missing something. And the family was very good about calling me to tell me, hey, they're here in town for a funeral. And so you remember that? Yeah, because somehow you guys still had contact with people that were relatives of his.
My mom knew people that he knew.
His family.
She knew his family.
Yeah, and so that kind of kept me updated as to what's going on, and that continued on. And one of the things, this is going to dive into a part that you may not remember necessarily. So, I mean, what was it? Well, hang on before we get there. What was the conversations between the three of you and your mother? I mean, this thing kind of dies off again, and then you're sitting there going, wait a second. We were making movement. What happened?
Yeah, it was just, always.
Losing faith.
Yeah, it was. We never thought it would be solved because we didn't feel like nobody worked it.
Yeah. Well, behind the scenes, let me tell you what was going on. Me being the young Jedi that I was, and not knowing what I was doing, I kept going around to different DAs, and actually, to tell you the truth, we actually tried to reach out to Joe when that stuff sparked off and we were doing the dig, and we reached out to him and we tried to arrange for a meeting. And he goes, yeah, no problem. I just want my attorney to be there. And we're like, perfect. Who's your attorney? Let's make it happen. And that's the last we ever heard from him. At that point, I mean, he disappeared and he fled back to, from what we heard, he was going back and forth to New Mexico, middle of nowhere, New Mexico, honestly. Yeah. And so that's the last we heard from him, and it just kind of died off and there was nothing we could do about it. And so from there, essentially what happened next is, I'll tell you what happened next is there was a disturbance that happened in New Mexico. Show that picture of that New Mexico State Police disturbance, Amanda. It's the picture with the New Mexico State Police on the bottom right.
When you're at the bottom.
Oh, hang on a minute. Before we get to that next picture, I'm glad you threw that one up. Go ahead and throw that up there real quick. That's an important picture. So this location here is actually out in. Larry had mentioned something about Latricia's phone and phone technology back then and back in the day. We're talking 2002, ladies and gentlemen. It is nothing like it is today. Back then, it could give you an idea, maybe. And the belief is that she possibly, this is going to be after she disappeared. We're talking a couple of days, 2 to 3 days later, where her phone had actually pinged off of a phone tower that was within a 3-mile radius of Joe's ex-wife's residence. So of course we talked to Joe's ex-wife. Joe's ex-wife was not a very pleasant person to deal with, and she wasn't really interested in talking to us at all. But that was that, and she comes around later in the story. But that's where we're at. So Amanda, show that picture that's got the blurred picture of a car, and yeah, there you go. So this is what happened on August the 18th of 2012. New Mexico State Police actually gets dispatched to a location in a town called Wagon Mound, New Mexico, which is a town that is located virtually in the middle of nowhere. And it's basically Shauna Ramsey, which is his wife now. And Shauna is hammered, and I mean hammered drunk. And she's going on about Tisha Phelps. There's a girl, Tisha Phelps. She was murdered in Oklahoma. You need to call Oklahoma Homicide. Please call them. And that he killed this woman and he made me watch, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's how this thing restarted up. And what happened is that days after that call to police, or days after that, they ended up taking her to a shelter. And so several days later, I'm going to say it was probably at least a week later, that's when I get a call. And I remember I was at the police academy doing something, and they called me up, and it was a New Mexico State Police. And they said, "Hey, sorry it's taken us so long to get back with you, but we've been looking at this and we couldn't find who she was talking about." And she kept telling us it's Tisha Phelps, Phelps. And we found out that you have this case. It's called the lady by the name of Latricia Fipps. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably the same person. Who did you talk to? And that's when they talk about her. And I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. So, you're not going to like this part, but I asked for permission to go there immediately, and I'm still waiting for permission to go to New Mexico. And as a matter of fact, I would have taken my own time to do that, honestly. But the problem is this, and this is kind of where this story is interesting to you, for me, and this is where I would like to have you guys still were in the background, and I would keep you somewhat. I mean, I didn't want to tell too much because I didn't want, I don't know who you know, and et cetera. But at some point in time, my concern is that if I go there to New Mexico at this point, she's in danger, and that was my main concern. That what is she going to do? She's probably going to go back to him. I mean, that's usually what happens. And so I was concerned that she's going to go back to him. He's going to know the cops are asking questions. And what better thing to do than just to make her disappear as well? And so I was very concerned, and there was nothing I could do about it at that moment, other than, little do you know, I ended up calling the New Mexico State Police, and I said, hey, go watch her and see if you can catch her alone. And they did. And that's when she reiterated her story in a sober state, and that was great. And then once again, this is August 18th of 2012, and then I got a phone call from your family January the 11th of 2013. Who was it that called? Do you remember that?
I'm sure.
Yeah, your mom called, and your mom called me, and she goes, "Hey, she's back in Tulsa, and she's not with him." And I said, "Where is she at?" And she goes, "Well, she's in Owasso." And so I went to her house that she was staying at, and I met her for the first time, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" I knew who she was. I was like, "Hey, get your shoes on. I need to talk to you." And she did, and she got in the car and she came downtown, and that's when she gave me a statement that told me the whole story. So at this point, we're in 2013. You probably don't know that happened. Where are you guys at with all of this? Did you know? I mean, is your mom telling you anything?
Yeah, Mom. I think Mom told us stuff, but then it was, and I know there was times we were mad at you because we were like, what are you going to tell?
Yeah.
You know, she's telling you what happened.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you were. Yeah, I'm sure you were.
Yeah.
And so from there, at that point, that's when I talked to her, and then here's the story that she tells, and I'm gonna tell you guys the story, and you probably remember some of it. I'm not gonna belabor it. This isn't about me, but I want to at least set the stage for what had happened. And there's something in this story that I really, really was encouraged about, and this is the deal. So Shauna is at the location, that mobile home that you'd seen that picture of, and she's there. I think she was playing video games or something, and that's when your sister, Latricia Fipps, she ends up showing up over at the residence, and Latricia goes, "What are you doing here?" And that's when Shauna goes, "What are you doing here? I live here." And at some point in time, that's when Joe entered the room, and he struck her very hard. And that's when Latricia went to the floor, and I said, "Well, what was Latricia saying?" And he goes, or what did Joe say? And he goes, "Nothing, other than he told me to go to the car and go get this big giant sea bag." And then what he did is he ended up handcuffing her and sticking her in this bag. And this is the true statement that he had said, or no, that she had said that has stuck with me. And the statement was this, that she had wet herself. And that is a statement when Shauna said this to me, and by the way, I just have to say this on Shauna's behalf, she didn't jerk me around. I mean, when I wish that she had been talked to back in 2002. And I think that if she had, she claims that she never was talked to, and had she been talked to, I think I think this would have been. I think we would have been somewhere a lot sooner, honestly. But nevertheless, she said that she had wet herself. Now, when you hear that, that's a true statement to me. That's not something that somebody makes up, you know. And then from there, they take her to another location where there was a location where they were renovating multiple houses, and Joe had grinded up something like pills into like a cocktail, and it had a funny color to it. And then he made her drink it. And then from there, they ended up in Amarillo, where they end up in a motel room. And while in this motel room, there was some, you know, activity between both Joe and Latricia. And that's when I confronted Shauna about it. And I said, "Well, what were you doing?" And she goes, this is true statement number 2. She goes, "Well," I said, "Were you not upset about what's going on in that motel room?" She goes, "No." And I said, "Well, are you kidding me? Why not? I mean, I thought you guys were like a couple." And she goes, "Because I was a dope whore." And that's another true statement, because people are, I just believed her. And from there, they ended up out in New Mexico, and they're looking at the stars, and she thought everything was all good at that point. The handcuffs are off. They're all laughing. She seemed like everything was okay. And then from there, they get back into the car, they drive from there, and then they go off to another location, and they're looking at the stars again. And that's when this attack happens on Latricia at this point, out in the middle of the desert of New Mexico. And the thing about it is that when Shauna was reciting the statement, she talks about how she dropped a stun gun, and that stun gun kind of sparked. And as it sparked, Joe freaked out in his meth state. And he goes, "Oh my God, somebody's going to see it from, you know, wherever, miles away, etc." And that's when he ends up putting her back into the car, or actually he strangles her to death there. And the best part of this story is, for me, the best part for me, and I know this is tough for the three of you, but the best part for me in my world was that Shauna said that he told me to hold her legs down. And I said, "Well, what did you do?" And she goes, "I held her legs down while he strangled her." And I was like, I didn't say this at the time, but I was like, "Thank you very much, and welcome to the world of murder," because you have just implicated yourself. But the fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't want to arrest her. I wanted to, not then. I couldn't arrest her at that. I didn't want to arrest her right then. I wanted more, but the problem is that she went back to Joe again, disappeared and went back to Joe. So here we are in the story. Did I ever share any of that stuff with you guys? I don't know if I shared that part. I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
And I don't think I ever heard about the stun gun.
I've never heard the stun gun.
I never heard the stun gun, but everything.
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. The stun gun was actually implemented originally at the place in Wagner. And that's what happened. They ended up going out there, and when they did that, that's when he panicked. They stuck her back in the car, and I believe that she was deceased at that point because based on Shauna's description of that, and when she talks about it, she talks about how he took her false teeth out and stuck, you know what I mean, because there's an identifier on those false teeth. And I said, "Well, what was she doing?" And she goes, she wasn't doing anything. And that's when Joe had inquired about how long do you think it would take before she defecates. And so yet another true statement that people just don't make that stuff up. And so based on all of this, I was really excited about the information that I was hearing. And I told her, make sure that you stay in touch with me. You need to stay in contact with me because quite frankly, your life is in danger. And what does she do? She goes back with him. And so that was that. And so here we are, we're talking years now. It's more years. And I don't know where they're living, to tell you the truth. I don't know. And so this is where we're at next. And ultimately what ends up happening is, let's see. Oh, I know what it was. It's called divine intervention is what happens. I'm walking through the lobby of St. Francis Hospital, and that's when I see somebody that I don't know her by name because I'm terrible with that, but I looked up there and I'm like, I know her. Where do I know her from? And then it dawned on me and I was like, that's Shauna. And I went motion to her to come here. And we're talking 2 years later. And I said, we had a little come to Jesus meeting, let's just say it like that, to say the least. And I asked her what her malfunction was and if she was nuts because, and why didn't she not call me back? And that's kind of what led us down this road again. And then what does she do? She goes back to him again. And that's when I called Anna. And what did I say to you? I'd had several messages with you over the years on Facebook Messenger going, how are you doing? All this other stuff. And I know you were pissed off at me, honestly. I think I get that vibe.
Because the audience, as you can see, he got all this info from her and they still let her go.
I know.
You know, and it was years. It wasn't a few days. It wasn't weeks. No. It wasn't months. It was a long time.
It was a long time. It was a very long time. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And you know what? In retrospect, Anna, to tell you the truth, the more experience I have now, I've been doing this for 16 years. I don't know that I would have waited as long, but the problem was she disappeared on me and she went straight back to him. And here we were in the same dilemma that we had before. Danger. I've got to have her safe. Plus, they had kids together at this point, and I believe that they were special need. One of them was special needs.
I think all of them are, from what I've been told.
Yeah. Do you know kind of what their relationship was like at this point? Had you ever heard anything like that about how that was, or between the two of them? Or did your mom?
No.
Well, if they would get into an argument, he'd been known to stick her into the crawl space of the house and let her sit down there under the crawl space. Where all the spiders and everything else are for hours at a time. She wasn't allowed to have a driver's license. She wasn't allowed to have a phone. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for her in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that she was under complete control of Joe. And I think you guys knew Joe. Joe was a pretty manipulative person from what I understand. And that's where we're at. So then I'd called Anna. I think I messaged you and I said, I need to talk to you about this. And what did I say to you? Do you remember what I said to you?
No.
Okay. What I said to you was, what do you think about, let's just roll with this. And if we lose forever.
Oh, yes. Yes, I remember.
I might have even had a meeting with your family on this, actually. Did I? I think I did.
Yeah. Yes.
Out in Sand Springs or Manford. And I said to you guys, I said, listen, if we lose forever. Are you guys good with rolling with this? What was the general consensus of the family?
It's like we had nothing to lose at the time. Yeah. So
if you swing for the fence.
Yeah. Let's do it.
You still probably had 0.2% confidence in the police department at this point.
If that much.
And yeah, right, Larry. I believe you, and I don't take offense to that because, quite frankly, I would have been furious if I would have been you too. And so we did. I was able to implement. I was able to get a hold of a DA that actually had courage.
He was amazing.
Kenneth.
Yeah.
Kenny Elmore. I'm gonna give him props. Give props where props are due, and he had the courage to let's go for this and let's see. I think we can do this. And so what we did is we filed warrants against these people. Amanda, show that video number 2.
He knew all along, and I've always said that he killed her.
A New Mexico couple arrested for a murder in Oklahoma.
She is an Oklahoma woman who has been missing for more than 15 years. Over the weekend, police arrested the 2 people they believe killed her right here in New Mexico.
Now the woman's family is speaking out. Here's News 13's Marissa Lucero.
Dean, Jess, police say the couple had been hiding out here since the killing, but detectives never let the two out of their sight.
They're in jail, and I know they're thinking about what they did.
That's Sheila Owen. Her daughter, Latricia Fipps, was 31 when she disappeared out of Oklahoma back in 2002. She was last seen leaving her job with her ex-boyfriend, Joe Calvert.
We knew all along, and I've always said he killed her.
So did police, who say he did it with the help from his girlfriend, Shauna Ramsey.
We think Calvert is the one that killed Phipps, and then Ramsey was complicit in hiding the body. And they've lived, their life in New Mexico ever since.
For more than 15 years, detectives in Oklahoma and New Mexico kept an eye on the couple and built a case even without a body.
Even though we know where they're at, they didn't really know we were looking at them that hard.
Over the weekend, the pair was pulled over by police near San Isidro. They were arrested and charged in Oklahoma with Phipps' murder.
I know that she's not ever coming home now, but yet I'm so glad. I wish I could have been in New Mexico.
Now Owen hopes detectives' next step will be to find where they buried her daughter.
Even if there isn't much left, I don't care if I get just one bone. I know it hurts. Please just let me have her back.
Now, police believe the two buried the body somewhere in New Mexico, but it's not clear where. Jess, back to you.
All right, thank you, Marissa. Prosecutors in Oklahoma have already filed the paperwork to have the two extradited.
What were your thoughts then?
Yes, you know what my thoughts were on you now.
I know it's hard seeing your mom. It's probably
yes,
that's
but
it's
you
really
know what?
tough.
She's seen the day.
She made it there.
Yeah. That's right, and that was actually another reason that I went to you. That was something that really bothered me, and I wanted your mom to at least try to get some justice because I knew that she wasn't in great health, and so we were kind of that's what I was really pushing for. Fortunately, we were able to find Kenny, and Kenny was able to put this thing together. This case was not a good case. I will just tell everybody that's listening to this. This case was a real gamble. To give you statistical data with respect to no-body homicides in this country, there's only been right now, about 600 of these cases that have actually made it into a courtroom in the history of the United States. Okay. It's very rare. This was the 14th no-body homicide in Oklahoma history to be tried. And since this case, there's actually been two more in Tulsa County that have been successful. Each one of those have also been successful. So mine was the first one that I'm aware of. I don't know of another one. And so here we are. We're pressing forward. Just to give you a little bit of a side note here, I went and met with both of them, and I got a little bit of a statement from of course, Shauna was, sobbing and all this other jazz. And I was like, relax, look at it as a vacation, make friends here in jail, enjoy yourself. I'm not interested in you. I'm interested in getting this case going. And you've told me the story, and she reiterated everything. She was very cooperative. And then I talked to Joe, and Joe actually, he kind of made a little bit of a mistake by speaking to me, but the mistake was that he actually talked about being in New Mexico as well when he disappeared on that time frame. Actually, he talked about going to Fort Scott, Kansas. Actually, throw that picture up, Amanda. Fort Scott, Kansas is that other map. There it is. That's a long ways, and that's 6 hours away, over 6 hours away from Tulsa. And it was there to go see Shauna's dad. And in fact, we talked to Shauna's dad. He goes, heck no, they didn't come here. There's no way they came up here. I told them that back in the day, and we knew he did, but I wanted to make sure he held to that. And he goes, I would either be at the bar, at work, at home, and it's a small town. So he was cooperative, et cetera. That was good. And Shauna was as well. The only problem was that Shauna's attorneys weren't. And so sometimes, just a lesson to everybody out there, sometimes attorneys can talk their clients into prison. And they almost did a really good job talking Shauna into going to prison right along with him. So what's your thoughts? We're sitting here and we're sitting at this point of the story. And hopefully everybody's finding this interesting. I think it's a fascinating case. What are your thoughts now? We go through the preliminary hearing. We make it through that. You have to have a sense of relief, right?
Oh, yes.
At any point in time, were you still thinking? Were you seeing kind of the weak areas of this case, and you were kind of going, "Oh my gosh, I don't know," or did you think, being you're the family, you're emotionally attached, so you're going to look at it completely different? What were you seeing that it was strong, or were you worried?
We were worried.
We're worried.
We were very worried.
Yeah.
It didn't take them too long, if I remember right. It only took them a couple hours, but.
Oh, you're talking about the jury. Yeah. I'm talking about just a prelim. So when we get through that prelim.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was worried too, if truth be known.
Yeah. I was worried we were never going to get past that stage. Like there was not enough evidence.
Absolutely.
Get into a courtroom.
Yeah.
That's right. And what we're talking about here, there is no direct. We're talking circumstantial evidence here, ladies and gentlemen. It's phone data, and then from there, not a whole lot more. And other than he said he dropped her off, and people are saying no, he didn't. So that's kind of where we were at. So we go from there. We have the jury trial. You sat through the entire trial, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
What and I did too. And what was that? I mean, I didn't talk to you all the time, but were you? I'm sure you had moments where you're like, "Ooh, that would." I'm sure there was moments when you saw me on the stand that you're like, "Oh, that wasn't good." So what was this like for your family to have that day in those days in court?
Finality.
Win, lose or draw. You're getting your day. You're getting your opportunity to sit in a courtroom to try to get some justice. So how was that?
To me, it was a great relief just to be there at the moment. But as you're listening to all this information, and you realize because the judge is given, directions, and Kenneth was really good about telling us the ins and outs of everything that was going on, and you could see to where we knew the truth, but it was like the burden of proof, I guess, was on the. They always said the burden of proof was on the state, and it was like a he said, she said, and then it made me nervous the whole time. I was nervous until the moment I heard they were guilty.
I felt like that Joe, for having a court-appointed attorney, I felt like he had a good one.
Yes.
Yeah, he was actually in charge of the public defender's office. It's not like just any idiot. I mean, matter of fact, our public defender's office, they don't have morons. They've got a bunch of really good ones. And this one just happened to be the boss of them all. Yeah. And I think that, he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy, believe me.
He made me nervous because I was like, I don't know. But, I knew in closing arguments.
Yeah, that's right.
When Kenneth closed that stage, I was like,
what was that other name?
I knew because Kenneth, he did amazing at that closing arguments.
Kenneth did a great job. Kenneth had an assistant with him. I can't remember his name, but he did really well as well.
I think it was Kevin Keller, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. They both, they knew what they were going to say, and they did a great job.
They definitely fixed what Shona was saying.
Win, lose, or draw, I felt like they took care of my sister. They took care of her when no one else could, to the best of their ability and the best of anybody else's. I don't think no one would have won it besides them two.
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to agree with you. Kevin Keller's now a judge at Tulsa County. I've said for years he's the smartest guy in that courthouse. He's a brilliant attorney, and between we had many evenings where I was stressing every day. I've never lost a murder case, but I was stressing, man. I tell you what, I'll tell you some of the stuff that I am going to say that I'll be professional because I'm a professional kind of guy. But the shenanigans that the defense team was, there's always, this is a good lesson for people that are an attorney. And even if you're a defense attorney, if you happen to be listening to this, don't be a douchebag. Okay. Just basically, there's a level of professionalism that you should conduct yourself with, not only for just the decorum of a courtroom, but you got victims' family members that are sitting in there. And there was a lot of childish behavior, in my opinion, that you may not have seen this, but there was a time when the main public defender, who was the boss of the public defender's office, came up to me on a break and said, hey, he said it in a very derogatory, nasty way. You know that you're losing this case. And it was like, your case is going down the tubes, I think was the exact language that he used. And all he was doing was enticing me to try to say, and I know what would you have said? You can go F off is what I wanted to say. And what I did say was nothing, because what he would have done is he would have ran back to the judge and said, he said this, and oh my gosh, we need a mistrial. But I thought, man, how unprofessional can you possibly be in a situation like this to sit there and try to get under my skin, you know? And that really bothered me. It still bothers me to this day. And anyway, it's not just his attorney, it's Shauna's attorneys. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know this or not. I think we had discussed, and I say I didn't have any issue with it. There was discussions about a possible plea bargain, and that was to give him 7 years if he was to lead us to where she's at. And do you remember that?
I think I do.
And he didn't take it. So we're going through this. There was a lot of things. I wanted to mention one thing real quick. There was the defense happened to say a lot of things. Here's some of the areas, and this is why I wanted to mention this for just cops that are listening. These cases when you're dealing with a no-body case, that you've got to look under every stone. And I'm going to admit, and I'm going to take some blame here. There was some stuff that I was accused of not doing that I probably should have at least made a little bit more of an effort. One of them was the fact that you guys had a burglary, or Latricia had a burglary over at that house, and I think that it was September the 28th of 2002. Do you remember that a little bit?
Right before
when her clothes came missing.
Yeah, when all of her clothes came missing up out of the house. And
that's right.
And that is one thing that I thought that Joe didn't hurt her because he took all of her clothes and he's held her captive somewhere, and he knew she needed clothes. That's how my mind was working at that time too.
Yeah. And that was a month and a half. That's a month and a half before her disappearance.
Right.
Do you remember some of the other items that were taken in that burglary?
Some lamps, I think. Wasn't it lamps that he had bought for her?
Yeah, throw that picture up, Amanda.
I think it was lamps that he had bought for her, clothes. I think that was about all that was taken out of that house. There was a big jar of money there. That's why we knew it wasn't a burglary, because
there's the items right there. So you cued on it, and I was curious as to what you remembered. And so this was a thing that came up in court, and the defense attorney said, well, and when you look at those items that were taken, let me put it this way. I've been a cop. I don't remember how many years I've been a cop then, but I've been a cop now for over 27 years, and I have yet to find a serial lamp burglar. Okay. So here's the deal. And my argument to that is that this is a domestic burglary. I'm taking those lamps because I bought those things, for God's sakes, and you're not going to keep them. Yeah. That's personal. And so that's what I said on the stand. And I said, no, I didn't look into that. What do you want me to do? I did call you guys, and I'd asked you about it. And I remember you guys telling me, I said, why did you not think that Joe did it? And they said, or I said, who do you think did it? And they said, well, we can't say Joe did it because we don't know. And I was like, well, that's an honest answer. And I actually appreciated that, because you weren't just immediately pointing the finger at Joe. And I remember you saying that many times, Anna, that you were like, I don't know that he did it. And and even closer, even later in this whole deal, you still had concerns, right?
Yeah, because because I never thought he would hurt her.
So go ahead, Larry. Did you want to say something?
No, good.
Okay. So here we are. The jury goes out. What are you thinking? And I know you know the answer, but what are you thinking at that very moment?
I'm feeling good at the time. I'm still super nervous.
I'm a little nervous, but like I said in the beginning, after Kenny's closing arguments, I was like, he had the last word. Kenny had the last word in that court. If I remember right, Kenny was the last one to speak, right?
No, actually, the other. Well, it was the second chair for the public defender's office. Actually, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, my mistake. Kevin Keller speaks first. The public defender, and I was really shocked, honestly. that the public defender, I want to go backwards before we get to the verdict. So let's go backwards real quick. The other thing that you may not know, I thought that this was fascinating. Amanda, show up that first picture of the dirt without the newspaper there. So you probably don't know this, but one of the things that the public defender's office was going to do, and this never ended up in court, but what they were going to do is they were going to show a picture of how they sent their public defender out to New Mexico, a hint to any police department, send the main detective if he needs to go to New Mexico. You send him, but they sent the public defender's investigator out to New Mexico, and they wanted him to try to dig a hole. And so he goes out somewhere along I-40 and says that I tried to dig a hole, and I couldn't dig a hole. And then they had a geologist that was on standby that was going to testify that they can't dig a hole in New Mexico. Now, I just didn't fall off the turnip truck, but that's the most moronic thing I've ever heard in my life, okay? And so they were literally going to test. That was what they were going to do. They were going to testify to the fact that you can't dig a hole in New Mexico. And so what we did is we called the New Mexico State Police guy that helped us, and we said, hey, do us a favor, and leave that up for a quick minute, Amanda. We said, go out there and do us a favor. Can you go out to an arroyo? And that's what Sean had said, that basically that he had dug a hole and stuck her in an arroyo, and which is one of those waterways. It kind of looks like a miniature canyon, and put her in there. And he dug that hole in 15 minutes. And so we were ready to roll. We were going to make them look beyond stupid. And essentially what happened is that they knew what we were going to have testified to, and they said, oh, we better not do that. And that's what happened. And then we get to the verdict. And the verdict comes in, and what are you feeling? Because what are you feeling at that moment when that verdict comes in?
Relief.
Relief, but right before the verdict came in, our judge said he wanted no reaction, which is
was hard.
It was celebration or if you're upset with it, he wanted no reaction, so you wouldn't because of the jurors, whether they went your way or not, to give no reaction, and then that they had people there ready to escort us out if we were, if they came back with the wrong decision that we didn't like, to escort us right on out of there, and we couldn't cheer if we got the answer that we did get. So it was really hard just to sit there and be quiet. My niece was sitting in the row behind me. I think I about broke her little hand because she was holding my hand when it went through. And, we weren't screaming outside, but Jesus heard me on the inside. I can promise you, I about broke her little hand. It's a good thing she still loves me. But,
yeah. What was your mom's thoughts?
Oh, gosh. Mama said, I remember Mama just being just ecstatic.
Yeah, because she always said that she wanted to be there here on this earth.
Yeah.
When that happened, and after that, she was ready to go. She's ready to go.
It didn't take her long after that,
And then, but that's all. That's all that's only her last wish was to watch him get sent to prison, and then she was ready to go to heaven and be done.
I'll tell you, and there he is right there. And that's not what I think. That's back in 2020. I hope he's enjoying himself there and so forth. I'll tell you, I'm still open to finding out where she's at, and I would love it if he reached out to me and said, you know what, I'm willing to do the right thing and take us where she's at.
We were talking about that tonight because we know all of his appeals are gone, right?
Okay.
Because they took it to the federal, right? Or the.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's an interesting side note is that this case has actually made case law. And the biggest thing about this case that made it very complicated, and I'm going to challenge people in the audience, and I'm going to say a word that you've probably never heard. And this is where Kenny is brilliant. And the word that Kenny used in this case was called inveigle. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
So here's the deal. And he talks about it. He talked about it. I didn't know what in the heck it meant either. But what it means is that inveigle, because the biggest argument that the defense had in this entire case, there was something that we did prosecution-wise that was brilliant. I want to mention this before I get to that. The thing that they did that was brilliant in this case, in my opinion, and this is what Kenny said he was going to do, and I was like, that's awesome. He goes, we're going to dismiss all charges against Miss Calvert before we go further. I know that you're shaking your head.
Yeah, that was hard.
That was
really
hard.
I know. But there was reasons for it, because you remember we got one testimony against the other person's testimony. Right. And I thought she was a train wreck on the stand.
She was.
She was horrible. I was like, what in the world are you talking about? But my point is that so they dismissed all charges against her before she said a word of testimony. And honestly, I got to tell you, I think it was brilliant. I think it was a brilliant move. Second of all, and even though she was a train wreck, she still said what she needed to say. But the second thing I'm going to mention is that word inveigle. What does that mean? And this is how we were able to get to where we were at. We're getting closer, guys. But it's that Latricia was being kidnapped. This is in summary of what that word means. She's being kidnapped when she gets picked up at that house that she was renovating. She just didn't know it.
I remember that saying.
That's right. He kidnapped her with the intent that, and the whole reason for this, ladies and gentlemen, when I mentioned motive before, it's because Shauna wanted her kids back. And they had approached her before. Joe had approached her saying she wants the kids back. You need to sign them back over to her. And Latricia wouldn't do it. If that's the story that I had heard, is that she would not do it. And because of that, Joe was kind of put in a position that I guess he felt like at that point, if he couldn't, he was still kind of, I think in his mind, I don't think he didn't want her, but he didn't want anybody else to have her either, kind of a deal. Maybe in part, but then also I know that the kids probably had a large part to this. But that's the reason that case law has been made on this that allowed us to have jurisdiction. Because if you think about it, this is another complicated thing about this case. You're talking Tulsa, Wagner, Amarillo, New Mexico. We're talking about multiple jurisdictions here. And so that's where we're at on this entire case. Hey, Amanda, show that last news clip for me, please. My favorite news.
You know, he sentenced all of us to a life sentence, and I think that's appropriate for him.
Sheila Owen and her family have waited 18 years to see Joe Calvert put behind bars. Calvert took Tricia Fipps to New Mexico in 2002 and killed her. Owen says they finally have some justice now, but not closure.
It's bad enough that you murder, but not knowing exactly where she is. We still don't have that closure.
Tulsa homicide detectives followed leads with no luck for years.
It was really hard to keep up hope until Jason White came into our life. Jason is my hero.
Detective Jason White picked up the case in 2009, his first year working homicide. He says 3 years later, Calvert's wife, Shauna Ramsey, helped them break open the case.
She was in the picture back in the day. From that point, she starts talking about a murder that Joe had committed.
White says Ramsey was the key to solving the case and sending Calvert to prison. The Tulsa County DA dropped her charges and she testified against Calvert, saying he strangled Tricia and buried her body somewhere in New Mexico. White tells me this was teamwork between his team, the Tulsa County DA's office, the New Mexico State Police, and Tricia's family, who never gave up hope.
They're probably one of the most deserving families that I have ran across in this job. I don't know that I've ever been hugged as hard by a couple of them, and I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't tear up myself.
Just like I told Jason, I know she was giving him high five, telling him thank you, and for not giving up.
And I'm tearing up a little bit even
again. Me too. Stop it.
I am. I'm sorry. I'm a softie. And I really do appreciate working with your family. I want to apologize to all of you that we didn't move a little quicker. We probably should have, honestly, in retrospect. But I wanted to try to see if maybe we could get more. And not only that, but I had serious concerns about Shauna and her safety. And to believe it or not, I don't know if I'd mentioned any of this to any of you. I know I didn't mention it to Larry. I haven't talked to Larry in years, and Mike, I don't think I've talked to you in years either. But I see Anna from time to time at work, and we stop by and see her regularly. But I got a phone call from Shauna, and I thought, oh, good. You know, I'm interested to know what's up. And she's actually remarried to somebody else, and she needed a letter written in her behalf, and I actually did it. And the reason why I did it is because I still want to maintain that relationship with her somewhat, and I asked her, I said, where is she? do you know? And she goes, I'm telling you, I can't remember. But I still have high hopes that maybe we can get to that point where one of the two, I really don't know that she does remember in the middle of the night, but one of the two. So here's what I wanted to mention. Amanda, show up that picture of Tucumcari to Las Vegas, New Mexico. The first one that shows the bigger area. There's the bigger area. This is where the route is. It's going to be State Route 104 in New Mexico between Tucumcari and Las Vegas. And show that closer up version. I don't think that it's going to be that. It's not going to be it's not going to be 138 miles, but this is the bright picture. This is what I wanted. But I'm pretty sure that Latricia is going to be somewhere. According to it's probably going to be within this range right here. And here's the reason why I'm pretty sure that it's going to be not far off from Tucumcari is because Joe wasn't going to be able to maintain control of her for much longer, I'm thinking. And so, that's not that one, Amanda. Go back to that last one. That last one there. This is the one right here that in this particular photo that she's going to be somewhere in that area. I'm pretty sure of it. And so if you happen to be watching this, you know somebody that happens to be in that area, that I still keep an eye out for it. I keep an eye out on it for NamUs, which is the missing person database. I'm constantly looking. I'm hopeful that someday we might get something there. I really do believe that. And Shauna was very cordial with me, telling me that things were going good for her. She has zero connections with him, and she hasn't for a long time, which is good. And I've told her that I need to know. I need her to really, really think on this and really, really consider this a priority. So that's where we're at. Any final things that you come to mind? How's life been since? I know your mom passed away. I hated to hear that, but I was very thankful that she made it and through that part. And I still have hope. I do. And have you guys ever written Joe, just out of curiosity, since this verdict?
No, I don't keep up with him on where he's at or anything. I don't. When Mama was here, she wanted me to do all that. And I was like, Mom, I don't care.
Okay.
But what I was going to say earlier, about that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
If, maybe it's something we should do. Maybe he will. Because, Jason, when I read my victim's impact statement to him, they said that he started to stand up like he wanted to say something to me. But because, I wasn't able to look at him. I was instructed that I could not read it to him. I had to read it to the judge. Yeah. And I couldn't look at him. And they told me that he went to stand up and his attorney kind of pulled him back down like he wanted to say something to me whenever I was reading that to him. And we were talking before we come on here, maybe it is something we should try to see if he will, since he ain't going nowhere, that he will talk to us and tell us where she's at.
I don't have any, as a detective to you guys for the first time, and I'm doing this publicly, but I really don't see that there's anything to lose. I mean, he's in Granite, by the way. Granite is it's close to Lawton, and he's in there. It's kind of like a convalescent center for old prisoners now, but I really don't see that you have nothing to lose, honestly. And you never know. I mean, you never know. I'd like to know. As a matter of fact, I just would like to know. And I still have my hope. I still am hopeful. So, anyway, I got to thank you guys so much. Is there any other things that you want to say? I know Mike says that he's got a renewed. He told me off air. He said, and it made me feel good. So that's why I'm bringing it up again. He said he had a renewed feeling for the police department because of this experience, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, we had such a rough beginning with it, and then and the other officers, they probably cared as well. It just we didn't see it as much as when you took it. You took it really close to the chest when you would talk to us. You were talking to me. You were talking to her. You were talking to my mother. You're talking to Larry, and it felt like before we were being talked at and not talked to. Exactly. And then so it just when you came on board, I mean, and I was skeptical. I remember my sister telling you he's going to be super skeptical, and you told me then at my mother's house that I'm going to make a believer out of you. We're going to get this done. and it took some time, but I understand now why it took so long, is because it was a long shot, but long shots win sometimes.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much, and I've got a soft spot in my heart for your family. You guys are really, I feel like I'm connected to you guys forever, and I appreciate the opportunity to have worked for you. I want to thank you for your patience, and I want to thank you for the trust of coming on here tonight and sharing your story and your feelings. And that means a lot. And I think that the whole reason I wanted to really bring you on, and I really wanted to reiterate this, I want to keep her name kind of out there. I want people to be on the lookout, be on the lookout for if there happen to be something that is found in New Mexico along Route 104, to just don't ignore it. Call somebody, call the police. When I talked to the New Mexico State Police a long time ago, they happened to say, man, people just don't call about stuff like that when they find bones and stuff. People don't call. They find those things out here all the time. Please call, because you just never know who it could be. And I'm hopeful. I really do. I really am hopeful. I can't thank you guys enough. What did you think of your first podcast experience?
It's still, I'm still nervous, but you made it good. You made it relaxed.
Good.
I just wanted to say one thing to people out there. We waited 18 years. Was it 18 years, Jason, for this?
It was.
And
for a day in court.
I just want people to know that
don't give up.
Don't give up. That one day Jason will cross your path. And
thank you.
They'll solve it one day. But we love you, Jason. You are everything to our family.
Well, thank you so much. I feel the same. As I love you guys too. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's episode. It was not easy I'm glad Anna brought her two brothers on here. I didn't even think to ask the brothers. I thought, yeah, they're probably not going to be interested in doing this, but I'm glad. Thanks, Larry, for being here. Larry, do you have anything final to say, or Mike?
Well, I mean, I seen one of the comments that one of your listeners did, and they want to know what happened to the children. And then my sister took the boy that my sister had originally adopted and raised him, and still lives with her today. He's a special needs young man. He's a good young man because he had someone very special to grow up after. And my mother actually adopted the daughter, the girl, and she became our sister. And unfortunately, she did pass away just last year because of diabetes. So, but they were both loved, and the boy, he's a good boy. So
a big tall hugger.
Yeah, you go near him, he's hugging your neck at least once.
I love to hear that. I do. Travis, Bruce, Sally, Karen, Kathleen, all of the people that kept Darren, everybody. I've noticed this entire episode that people have stayed tuned in the entire time. And this show is not a show without you. I really appreciate it. I bring this here. This is my healthy hobby, but I bring this to you to try to show you what really goes on here. And hopefully you're coming away with some hope and faith if in fact you've had a situation that maybe you've lost a loved one. And trust me, the police, you got to be a squeaky wheel. And that's the one thing that this family was. I mean, if you don't call and at least touch base with these cold case guys, that case is going to sit on that shelf and it's not going to move. I'm telling you, unless some development happens in one of these cases, that case will not be touched. You have got to be an active participant in your loved one's case and so forth. And if the media, always check with the detective that's assigned the case. But if the media wants to do a story on it, I'm all about it. Just make sure that you keep some of the private details to these cases private, because we have to keep that behind us. And one final thing, do you guys? There's one thing that the DA's office does. They do the trees of remembrance and things like that. Did you guys ever go to that, or was that something that you?
Yes, we do. We didn't go last year. I think it was something happened. Something was going on. We couldn't make it last year, but yes, we go up there and do that.
Okay. And so this is what I'm going to say finally to the detectives that are out there in the world. If you've got this going on in your community, go. Okay. I know that there's a mixed bag of feelings when it comes to cops wanting to go to these things. I feel that it is an obligation for us to go there and be accessible to the people that we serve. And so I try to make every one of these, and I answer questions, and it's just it's part of the job. And so you should really consider going there, because you never know those relationships you build with people. You're liable to hear something from another family member about this person's case. So if you shut that down, and the other thing I'll mention this too, the world that we're living in with Facebook and TikTok and all these other sites, etc. It doesn't hurt to put out a page about your loved one either. That maybe that's the world we're living in today. They're not watching the news. They're looking at feeds, and they're looking at cold case sites, and they're doing this, that, and the other. And so I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot to Larry, Mike, Anna. Thank you very much for being on here. I really, really have enjoyed this episode, and it's really one of my favorites. And I honestly, I'm glad you came on here, and I appreciate it that you trusted me enough to come and tell your story. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Good deal.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, go to the merch store if you get a chance on KGRA. It's not necessary, but there is stuff there. Also, follow me on YouTube. It takes you less than 30 seconds to like and subscribe. Go to YouTube. Trust me, I'm not making any money doing this, but it helps, but it brings more viewers, and it makes people want to come here and so forth. Check it out. Go to my Detective Jason White Facebook page. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on TikTok, which is freaking went nuts. And I'm not even doing stupid things. I'm just being real. So you can check that out too. And until next time, thank you. And don't go away for a minute. Hang out for a minute. Don't click off. And thank you to the girl that got this whole thing set up behind the scenes that's computer literate on your side, Anna.
Yes, my sister.
Until next, yes, give her props. Until next time, take us out, Amanda.